it's living up to its expectations so far. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is all about how much it costs to live in London. So before I moved to London, I feel like there was so many preconceptions and misconceptions whenever I was like, oh, I'm moving to London. It's like, oh, prices, oh, it's going to cost you so much money and all of these things. And obviously London is expensive, but I think it's made out to be a lot worse than it actually is. So I wanted to make a video on a month of everything I've spent in a month and just basically go through that spending and talk about it and how you could maybe spend more, maybe spend less, and how it's actually realistic to be able to live in London and not spend an absolute fortune. Obviously, if you're living in London and you're going to have dinner at the Shard every night, it's probably going to cost you quite a lot of money. But if you're going to live in London and behave kind of the same as you would if you lived elsewhere and have good spending habits, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I personally don't think. So we're going to talk through everything I've spent. I've written it all down in a little Excel on my Mac and we're going to talk through it bit by bit. Okay, so first thing we are going to look at is obviously rent, and that I think is the biggest one when it's oh, you live in London, oh my gosh, how much does it cost you to rent there? And yes, rent in London is ridiculously expensive, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about this actually because I've just had the biggest drama actually about rent prices. So first of all, I have spent let me look at my Excel sheet, £783.50 this month on rent. And let's talk about that because that is very, very low for London. So I live in South London and I live in a house flat share where you each pay per room. And so I pay only for my room. I don't pay for rent a whole flat or anything at the moment. And I live probably about 20 minutes on the tube from the centre, so quite south. So that already reduces your rent. Obviously, the further away you are from central London, the cheaper your rent is. So if you're looking at anywhere kind of past Clapham on the south, if you drew a little circle and you got to Clapham, anywhere past that, the prices are going down. I also live quite a walk from a tube station at the moment, so it takes me probably about 15 to 20 minutes to walk there, depending on my speed. And again, that's why the rent is so cheap, because it's not the most convenient location. If I want to get into the centre, it'll take me about 45 to 50 minutes with the walk and the tube. But obviously that's what you're weighing up. Do you want to pay the price or do you want to do the walk? Also, I think house shares as well are just cheaper because obviously sometimes you're not living with people you know. I am, but not always. And that is how my rent is so cheap. That rent does actually include bills as well, which is pretty crazy because if you think how cheap it is. So I'm actually moving out in the next week because I was only ever meant to be here for 2 months. So I've been frantically flat searching, and yeah, you'd be lucky to find anything under £1,000 if you're in a flat share central for just rent, no bills. I don't know if that made any sense. Yeah, basically the more central you get, the more expensive it gets. However, I am moving more central, and so my rent when I'm more central, I'm really close to a tube station, will be £960 without bills, so probably about 1.1k including bills, when we've added everything together. And that is a 2-person flat share with my friend, so I'm not living with anyone I don't know, and we do have the whole flat, we're paying for the whole flat, not just a room. Okay, moving on. And the next thing I've spent a lot of money on is food shop and food out, takeaways, eating out and things, which I'm just so guilty for. So food shop, I've actually only spent £146.80 for the whole month, and that's probably because of also how much I've eaten out, so I've not actually done much food shopping. And I'd say that's pretty standard. I would probably expect that anywhere. I don't think that's super expensive. But obviously again, where I live, the further out you live, the cheaper the shops are. Shops in central London probably will be a little bit more. But the eating out, so I've spent £146.50 on eating out, and do you know what the downfall is? It's work. So I work in central London, and at lunchtime, if you haven't meal prepped, which I do try to do as much as I can, but if I haven't gotten around to meal prepping, we do go out and get lunch, and lunches are £8 a day. That's a lot. And so I really try and minimise the amount that I do this, but when you're having a really tiring day at work, obviously you want to go out and get something really yummy. But yeah, that's my own downfall really. So again, you don't have to do that, and if you work from home, save so much money. Okay, so on the topic of work, another major spend is my travel. Now this is kind of like the other thing you weigh up with where you live. So like I said, I live quite far out, but travel does cost me a lot more. So it costs me about £8 a day to get into and out of work, which I think is so much for literally just to travel to work. So over on travel, I have spent £123.80, which I just think is so much for like 4.5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks of travel. But included in that is £28.50 of a like overground train home. So I guess that kind of weighs out. And I do have a rail card with that cost, but the rail card doesn't work on the tube at peak times, so it means nothing for my tube fares. Again, when you work from home, you're not paying tube fares, so that's great. So I save so much money when I work from home. When I move, I will be living more central, so again, my travel will drop. So even though I am going to be paying quite a bit more, in other areas I do think it will fall. So it's not going to even out at all. I'm definitely going to be paying more, but in terms of like quality of life and ease of life, I do think it's definitely worth it paying more and moving more central. Okay, next up, subscriptions. And the only subscription I actually have is the gym. And I've gotten really lucky with this one, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you about things that like I don't have to pay for. So with my work, I get 50% off Pure Gym and Virgin Active. So I currently use Pure Gym, which is meant to be £50 in London, but it's 25 with work. So that's just like really, really ideal. And obviously if you don't have the discount, it is quite expensive, the gyms in London. Like £50 pretty cheap for central London gym. So that's it for subscriptions. Oh, another thing about things I don't have to pay for, this is just me being completely transparent with how much like it actually costs and not just ignoring costs, is Ubers home from work. If we're there past 9 o'clock, I don't have to pay for those, work does. So I've gotten 2 of those, and so that'd be £50 more on my travel if I did have to pay for those. Just to make sure all costs are accounted for and just being completely transparent with what I have paid for and what I haven't paid for. Okay, next up is beauty treatments. Now, I don't know why I've given this a whole section that's literally my nails. Got my nails done twice. First time I got my nails and my toes done, and I get shellac on my toes and builder gel on my hands, and that was, how much was that? £58, which pretty standard. Again, I'd pay that at home. So, and then from like the south of England, and not particularly expensive area either. So that again, pretty standard. I then got my nails redone again yesterday, and that was £40, but I did get them taken off and then put back on, so you pay like an extra £10 to get them soaked off or something. So again, standard. I think I'd pay that at home. Next up is activities. Again, I don't know why I've given this a whole category to itself. I did one activity, guys. I really haven't been up to too much. And this was when I went home and I went ice skating with my family, and I paid for the ice skating, and this cost me £55.20, which wasn't even in London. And if I did an activity in London, I think it would have been similar. So like, say my boyfriend came to see me and we wanted to do an escape room, I think we'd be looking at around that price anyway. So yeah, that's not like, I don't think that's crazily expensive. I don't think it's really cheap. I think it's just pretty standard. The last thing I spent money on is nights out. And I actually haven't been out too many times, but again, being transparent, if I go out with work, I don't pay for anything. So I have been out with work twice, and so that you don't pay for any of the drinks, you don't again pay for your transport home. So that's 2 nights out that I've not had to pay for. And then I have gone on, I think 2 or 3 separate to that. No, I think 2 separate to that. No, maybe three. And I have spent £84.60 on those, and that's just, I don't actually drink very much in the club. Like, I will only drink if everyone's buying drinks, and then like I will buy around because I've like been bought drinks and I don't want to be like taking everyone's drinks. But if I was like out on my own and like people weren't buying drinks, I wouldn't buy drinks, because I actually just don't really like to drink once I'm at the club, because I just know that will give me such a bad hangover. So yes, that's pretty low, and I think that's probably where a lot of people be like, whoa, I would spend way more in London on a night out. And yes, that is like possibly very true. And also I feel like I've preed a lot with my own alcohol, or like you know, like a bottle of wine from the shop, rather than like going out for cocktails, which would probably cost 80 quid in its own. So that could definitely be a lot more, and will be a lot more definitely at some point when I like go out and for cocktails, dinner cocktails, things like that. Oh my gosh, I've missed out a whole category. I've literally missed that whole category. Final category, is shopping. And basically I'm really shocked at how low this is because I genuinely feel like I'm buying things 24/7. But yeah, this is actually only £140.20. And I'm still in that phase of like needing necessities. So quite a lot of these are literally just necessity items. And I don't feel guilty for shopping at all at the moment. For that reason, I literally need these things to improve my quality of life. It's not like a necessity like life or death. And I think the reason I've also not spent as much as I thought I would have is because I keep telling myself I need to buy things and then not going to the shop. Like, I need new work clothes, I can't bother to go. I need to order some gym outfits, I just haven't ordered them. So what do we buy? I actually spent £36.20 on shampoo and conditioner. Now before you judge, my hair is just falling out and I don't know why, and it's giving me stress. So I bought like the Pureology shampoo and conditioner that my hairdresser recommended, and I bought like oils, rosemary oil, everything. I'm doing like major hair care at the moment, and you know, it is looking good, so what can we say? Moving on, I then spent £22 on jewellery, which was actually this bangle and another one which I think I might have lost on a night out, which is actually really upsetting. Next up, £41.80 on a bottle. The best bottle in the world, by the way. I wanted a bottle that has the millilitres, and at work I just don't drink enough. Like, I'm sat at my desk and I can't be able to go and get a glass of water. So bottle, fantastic. Great purchase. And then also a keyboard and a mouse for my desk at home. Spent £4.20 in boots, which was probably like, I don't even know if that was some hair oil or something. I then spent £25 in a phone shop. I got a phone case and a phone protector and a camera protector because I got a new phone, which you are seeing this video on. I hope you're enjoying the quality, guys. And the final thing I bought was face cream. So overall, that has come to £1,603.50. And that's all of my spending in 1 month. Now, I personally think this is very low for, like, before I came and it was like, oh my gosh, like, London is so expensive. And the fact that that's all I've spent, I'm like, wow, how did I do that? I do feel like it's been a quiet month. I don't know, it's not been too quiet actually. Like, it's definitely not been boring, and I don't really say no to things. I'm saying that I don't think I've spent very much, and it's not because I've been like, oh, I can't spend that. Oh no, like, I'm not gonna come. I've literally done what I wanted, bought what I wanted, everything, obviously with a sensible head on. I think what I'm trying to say is I feel like living in London was always this kind of unreachable thing of like, you can't do it. Like, I think I watched a TikTok before I moved to London and it was like, you can't live comfortably in London unless you're on 80k. Well, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's just a lie. Yeah, as long as you're just sensible with what you do. Upfront costs are quite expensive. Like, when I moved, I needed like just lots of like new things. I just feel like there's this view that if it's in London, it must be so much money. And you know what, actually, I bet that's partially because, like, so I've never lived in London before until now, and like when I would come to London, it would be for like an event or something, like someone's birthday or something, and you'd always end up going to like a really nice bar or something like that, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. And it's like, actually, if I'd done this at home and gone to like the really fancy place at home, it would have been really expensive. So of course it's expensive, but when you live here, you're not going to treat yourself to like really fancy restaurants all the time. And yeah, you're not going to be like, when you go out, you don't need to go out to central London, you go and like Clapham or like somewhere else. So again, you're not paying like stupid prices. It's really not as bad as people say. Touch wood, so far. My gosh, probably by the time I'm going to move to central next month and I'm going to be making a new video with a different outlook. Let's hope not. I hope this video has been helpful, and if you are thinking of moving to London, honestly, absolutely go for it. It's been the best time so far, and I've only been here for 2 months. I can't really say too much, like I can't really speak like I've lived here forever, but I absolutely love it. It's literally just, it's living up to its expectations so far. Anyway, stop talking, Abby. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please do like and subscribe, and I shall see you next week.